David Ornstein spoke last night and said he has given up guessing what Manchester United are going to do. This runs into what we've always said. Who knows what's happening? But surely now Erik ten Hag has to just be backed by INEOS. I mean, there is nobody left. Tuchel is out. Pochettino is out. Southgate is out. You're basically left with the lowest hanging fruit. It's rotten. I mean, people talk about De Zerbi. There's a release clause for a guy that's a huge risk. We'll talk about him. And then Thomas Frank, who basically thrives on 30% possession and counter-attacking football. Is that the style of football we want at Manchester United? I think that there has to be a realisation at some point. And look, I'm always level-headed. I have an opinion, but I'm always level-headed. And if I take into what I read about from the anti-Ten Hag out brigade, who are the minority at this point, but just because they're the minority doesn't mean they haven't got a voice. So what I hear from the Ten Hag out brigade is, well, why are we keeping a guy who had a negative goal difference, who finished 8th in the league, and is bold? You know, I mean, look, that last one is the sort of nonsense, toxicity nonsense. But we finished 8th in the league and we didn't score many goals. So let's sack Ten Hag. For a guy who finished in the bottom half of the league and conceded a load of goals, Frank and De Zerbi. But he's not managing Man United. They had an injury crisis. Yeah, so did we. Yeah, but they don't have the same budgets that we've got. Yeah, Ten Hag inherited the worst Premier League side in history. But I just want to sack Ten Hag. Yes, and that's the point, isn't it? That's the point. The anti-Ten Hag out brigade are so desperate to remove a manager that finished 8th and had a negative goal difference that they will jump into any crocodile pit in the hope there's no crocodile there. Like, that's where we are now. It's gone way past, is there a logical replacement for Ten Hag, to just pure desperation to try and remove Ten Hag from some people. I don't listen to the Ten Hag out brigade anymore because they've gone from Nagelsmann to Tuchel to Pochettino, and now they're going down to what is the anything, and that's just not the way to run any football club, let alone a football club like Manchester United. And on the flip side, we finished 8th and we conceded a load of goals. We had a horrific injury record. We hardly had our best centre-backs for all of the season. Our 2 best players disappeared in Rashford and Casemiro. And on top of that, we got taken over halfway through the season. We've had players pissing about off the pitch because they're not the right sort of players. And yet we still won the FA Cup. And Ten Hag was still the second most successful manager in the Premier League last season behind Pep Guardiola. And we're still in the Europa League. You know, I don't buy into this 8th and negative goal difference because we came out of that season by schooling the best team in the league in an FA Cup final 2 weeks ago. Surely he stays, because that's the breaking news this morning. There is nothing out there. Like, there is no saviour out there. Pochettino is out. Southgate is out. Tuchel is out. Nagelsmann was out ages ago. Hansi Flick is at Barcelona. They are gone. You are left with Thomas Frank or potentially De Zerbi, although I don't actually think we're in for De Zerbi based on what some credible people are saying. So let's look at those options. Thomas Frank actually has got the same win ratio as De Zerbi. I mean, this stunned me. De Zerbi win ratio at Brighton is around 43%, and so is Thomas Frank's at Brentford, which I find amazing. I never realised that. But, you know, read into that what you like. I think he probably managed Brentford in the Championship a little bit, to be honest. But, yeah, I know what Brentford are. They are a counter-attacking team. They beat us, and they beat Liverpool by 3 or 4 goals with 30%. He's an interesting character, Thomas Frank, but he ain't a Man United manager, and his football ain't Man United. So let's get rid of that. On De Zerbi, actually, you know what? There was a very interesting piece on De Zerbi from Fabio Capello, who is obviously Italian. Didn't do very well at England, to be fair, but you know, this is what he had to say about De Zerbi. He's a well-prepared coach who asserts his ideas wherever he coaches and has a respectable sponsor like Pep Guardiola. So far, however, no one has come forward despite his name being linked to the benches of big clubs. Also, he has a release clause with Brighton that would, you know, you've got to pay for this coach. And I think that when I look at De Zerbi, there's no doubt that he is an interesting coach, but I just don't see it. I just don't see the fascination with a guy that may or may not have done well at Brighton and is a guy that Pep Guardiola said he likes. I mean, is that enough to go and stake your claim on your biggest rival's coach? Well, not Man City aren't our biggest rival. The fact that Pep Guardiola likes De Zerbi is enough for us to go and get De Zerbi. Well, we know what Pep's like. Pep will praise anything, and I just don't see it. What's so special about De Zerbi that Ten Hag wasn't doing at Ajax? And on top of that, why would you get £10 million to get rid of Ten Hag and £5 million to get De Zerbi? You're £15 million down straight away on a big risk. I don't see it. So look, a lot of people are getting De Zerbi in their head. I actually don't think that he is going to come to Manchester United. I don't actually think that he is a viable option anymore. So I really am just sat here going, and it's interesting because Chris Wheeler's put an article out this morning saying that INEOS are fully aware that there will be a massive fan backlash if Manchester United get rid of Erik Ten Hag. Well, that in itself isn't necessarily... The morning sneeze is definitely coming, sorry. Hay fever. It's so bad. I'm struggling with it really bad at the moment. There's some news about Branthwaite and Lenny Yoro coming in as well as Sesko as well. But I'm just trying to see where this story came in from. Chris Wheeler in the Daily Mail has put an article out this morning, basically saying that I'm trying to find it. Here it is. Erik Ten Hag and his staff are still in the dark over their futures at Manchester United. He's due back at Carrington for pre-season training in early July. Some of you are asking when Ten Hag comes back. Early July. But INEOS are aware there is a risk of a huge backlash from Man United supporters if they sack Erik Ten Hag. Well, honestly, that's not a reason to keep anybody. The club must make whatever decision they want to make. But what I would do is I would look at why that backlash is going to happen, and that's because it's illogical. It's outstanding. It's astounding. It's confusing. It's frustrating. But I look at it now, honestly, and there's some very interesting interview with David Ornstein that came out last night where he said, look, he's given up predicting what's going to happen with Manchester United because he's not sure Manchester United know what they're doing either. So we've said that many a time as well. I think that David Ornstein saying that he's given up predicting what's going to happen, one of the most credible journalists, football journalists in the world, certainly in the UK game, saying that he's given up predicting what's going to happen because he's not sure United know either. I mean, that just says everything, doesn't it? Now, as we know, some people will say, oh, great, INEOS, they're running a tight ship. They're not running a tight ship. We know everything that they're doing. We know they're talking to Dan Ashworth and they can't get him out of Newcastle. We know that they've spoken to Tuchel and it didn't go anywhere. We know that they were going to sack Ten Hag before the FA Cup final. So they're not running a tight ship. I agree with David Ornstein. No, they don't know what they're doing. Like, Ornstein's basically saying, I'm not going to predict what's going to happen because I don't think Manchester United know what's going to happen at the moment. And that's exactly right. What's the point in predicting what's going to happen or when it's going to get announced when I genuinely think, and we've said this ourselves, I think right here, right now, in this very minute that you're watching this show, if you could put yourselves into the head of Sir Jim Radcliffe, I don't think he's made his mind up. And I think that's the delay. You know, they talk about time frames and they talk about strategic reviews. I call it a desperate review. As I said last night, this is not a proper review because a proper review would put everything on the table and we're limiting ourselves to what's cheap and available. So we're not looking at Emery at Villa. We're not looking at trying to get Ancelotti out of Madrid. I'm not saying we could do that, but a proper review would try and get best in class. We're not doing that. But I genuinely think they're sat there even now on Tuesday, the 11th of June, going, we don't know what to do. I don't think they know what to do. And I think that is what David Ornstein is saying, is that the reason people keep going from, we'll find out at the end of next week, or we'll find out at the end of yesterday, or we'll definitely find out by Wednesday. We won't definitely find anything out, because if you are in a shopping aisle at Tesco and you're looking at the different brands of bread and you don't know which bread to get, then you're still going to be there in 20 minutes when I come back round, because some people will just grab a piece of bread a loaf of bread. But when you know everyone's looking at you and you've got to pick the right loaf of bread, you're going to be stuck there going, let's read the ingredients on this. Let's have a look at the sell-by date on this. They don't know what to pick. Goldbridge, that's the end of the clip. I'm sure you enjoyed it. In fact, I bet that's the best clip you've ever watched. So there's no reason not to subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon so you never miss a clip again. In fact, smash a like on the video because we all know only legends like videos and you are all legends. So please smash a like on the video and we will see you again on the next one. Thank you very much for watching as always.